Honestly, a John Wick ripoff would have been better. Welcome back to the channel, folks. This is going to be my spoiler-free review of the remake of The Crow. The movie has simply been in production for as long as I've been active on the internet. That probably is a little bit hyperbolic, but it sort of seems like that. I've never not known this movie to be in some level of pre-production. It's had multiple directors, one of them being Stephen Norrington, who directed Blade. Would have loved to have seen that. And it's also had an incredible amount of different lead actors attached to the role. We've had the likes of Bradley Cooper, Luke Evans, and Jason Momoa, who was most recently sort of in a screen test, whatnot. I don't know whether that was him just trying to get the role, but looked like he wanted it pretty hard. So look, I'm going to be completely honest here. I really wanted to like this film. I am a fan of that OG movie, which I have just reviewed on the channel, so I'll put a link for that in the description. I saw the trailer for this film, and it was just speaking to my 15-year-old self. Brooding badass, check. Long black trench coat, check. Bloody violence, preferably with a katana sword, check. I thought the trailer, if anything, looked like a semi-good John Wick ripoff, because nearly every action movie that's been released in the last decade or so is somewhat going for that similar gung fu style action. I'm not opposed to it, but it was heavily featured in the trailer, so I thought that's what we were going to get. And guys, I am not opposed to remakes because we'll always have that original. I was ready for this film. One thing I knew for sure before going into the film is that it wasn't going to be anywhere near as good as that original movie. The 1994 Crow movie is a cult classic. It's incredibly special for a number of reasons, and it means a great deal to a lot of people. So the movie was always going to have an uphill battle to climb. The only thing I was asking for when it came to the movie was for it to be better than the sequels. And if I'm being totally honest, guys, I don't think it even manages that. This is a pretty terrible movie. Before we get into what I liked, disliked, and if the film's worth seeing, what's the plot to this movie? Soulmates Eric Draven and Shelley Webster are brutally murdered when the demons of her dark past catch up with them. Given the chance to save their true love by sacrificing himself, Draven returns to seek dark, bloody revenge against his killers, traversing the worlds of the living and the dead to put the wrong things right. One thing I can safely say is when the violence hits, it's glorious. I thoroughly enjoyed the two scenes that we get where shit hits the fan, and it's an all-out bloodbath. The problem we have here is that they've already been heavily marketed in the trailers. While I enjoyed them, we just don't get enough of them here. The opera scene is genuinely fantastic. I was laughing, flinching, and loving the height of the violence that was displayed here. You hear every single bone crunch in this film. The sound design is a massive positive. The one and only thing that this movie does better than any other movie in the franchise, and yes, I'm talking about the original as well, is Eric Draven's healing powers. They're depicted in a gruesome fashion here, because whenever he's shot, stabbed, or breaks a bone, he feels it and he's in a lot of pain. And it takes a little while to heal as well. In a morbid sort of way, I was just wanting Eric to get hurt in this movie so we could see more of this crazy effect. But don't panic, guys, that's it for things this movie does better than the original. Bill Skarsgård is fine. After seeing him in Boys Kill World and The Crow, though, he cemented himself in my head as someone who can sell the shit out of kicking a serious lot of ass. Not only is he great at landing creepy character roles, but he's also got an eye for action roles that really displays his set of skills in this particular department. But guys, I'm really sorry. That's about it for what I liked about the film. I didn't realize how much I appreciated the 94 film for not messing about and getting straight into the action. I think there could be a solid argument here when it comes to this film that seeing Eric Draven and Shelley Webster together would have been a good move. It makes sense to get acquainted with these characters, get invested. The problem with that, though, it takes up nearly the majority of the runtime here. It could have worked if they had chemistry, but they simply didn't. It just felt incredibly forced, and I'm sorry, people, I don't know who thought it was a good idea to hire FKA twigs. She cannot act, people. I'm sorry. I didn't buy their love. You know, you could have blinded people with an hour and a half of John Wick style action here. That's what the trailer looked like to me. Yet there's hardly any of that in here. What there is plenty of, though, is CGI blood, which in all honesty doesn't bother me that much, but there's such an overabundance of it in this film. The film, on a visual level, holy hell, people. It's one of the most bland looking movies of 2024. If you've got a terrible script, overdress your sets, build some creepy looking streets, create a bit of atmosphere. If there was ever a movie where some sort of actual effort was needed into the look of this film, it's The Crow. Even the god-awful sequels managed to convey some sort of style and atmosphere when it came to them visually. Danny Hudson here as the villain. Why? This isn't the mid-2000s, but saying that, this movie has been in production since 2008, so it might make sense why he was cast. Look, I've tried not to compare this film to the original, but you took the name of Eric Draven in this film when you could have named him something else, so you are going to get compared movie. But the villain doesn't compare anywhere near to Michael Wincott, who plays Top Dollar in the original, and his crew.
Devil's Night is upon us again. So we throw a little party, start a bunch of fires, make a little profit.
Who the hell wants businessmen as villains in a Crow movie? Not me. Soundtrack and scores also have to be mentioned when it comes to the Crow franchise. So let's not spend any more time on that here, because it was very clearly an afterthought. You don't just get a pass from me because you put Joy Division in there. And the score, I'm not even sure there was one. Honestly, guys, the biggest sin here is that it's just boring as shit. Could have slipped through the cracks if it had some slick action in it, but the movie isn't interested in giving you that. It's a subpar, lifeless remake of a movie that, if you haven't watched, should immediately go and watch instead of this. I'm probably being generous here, but I'll give this 2 stars out of 5. Anyway, guys, The Crow 2024. Should have left it in the bin, folks. That has been my spoiler-free review of The Crow 2024. What did you think that? Did you enjoy it? Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this movie, and until next time, I'll catch you later.